hearing from the great sages, he developed love of Godhead. In that connection, Narada continues to say in the first canto, 5th chapter, verse 28 of First I passed my day season. Every morning and evening I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and thus my heart gradually purified. As soon as I heard it, I became service to them. These are practical examples of how one can develop static life. The association of pure devotees is engaged morning and evening in chanting the Hare Krishna. This way, we get the chance to purify his heart and develop love for Krishna. Haribo. Next person.
This tape 25th Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Kapila says, "My dear mother, when the sublime devotional service, when a pure devotee speaks, his words act upon parts of the audience. What is the secret of hearing and chanting? A professional impress transcendental ecstasy within the heart of the listener. However, when a realized soul who is engaged in the service of the Lord is speaking, he has the potency to inject. One should therefore seek the association of such pure, unalloyed devotees, and by such association and service, and a neophyte devotee will certainly develop attachment, love, and devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead." In the Padma Purana, there's a story of a neophyte who would raise herself to chat at night, invoke. Sometimes, however, it is found that during any devotional process, sudden development of the devotional has to be understood as a special mercy of his devotee. This apparently accidental development feeling, costless mercy of Krishna can be divided into three groups: simply by speaking, simply by glancing. In the Narada statement of ecstatic by speaking, Lord Krishna said to Narada of the Brahman, "You may develop unalloyed transcendental bliss and or auspiciousness." In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement of ecstatic love towards Krishna simply by glancing. When the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the person Krishna, they were so not as far as in the Sukha Mita, where Narada's devotee of the personality of God, and I can observe that without any following of the of devotion, all many of the symptoms of the execution of devotion service after many. As love of Krishna, there is a state 7th canto 4th chapter 6 of Bhagavatam, in which Narada addresses King Yudhishthira, "My dear king, it is very difficult to describe the character of actual attraction for Krishna, and whatever I can explain about his character would simply be an arrangement of words. His actual character is impossible to describe." This means that Narada himself admitted that the natural development of Prahlad's ecstatic love was by the grace of Lord Krishna. This natural attraction for Krishna on the part of Prahlad was developed simply by the mercy of Narada. When Prahlad Maharaj was within the womb of his mother, she was being sympathetically instructed by Narada about the science of devotional service, and at the same time Narada was wishing that the child within the womb could also take advantage of the instructions. Because Narada, an authorized devotee and a great associate of the personality of Godhead, was desiring auspiciousness for Prahlad Maharaj, he developed all the characteristic of a high-grade devotee. This is called natural attraction. It is caused by the special of the personality of Godhead or by the special grace of the great devotee like Narada. There is a statement in the Skanda Purana wherein the Parvata Muni tells Narada, "My dear Narada, of all saintly person, you are so great and glorious that simply by your good wishes, a low-born hunter also has become a devotee, elevated devotee of Lord Krishna." This ecstatic love for Krishna can be divided into four five divisions, which will be described by Sri Rupa Goswami later on.
Chapter 18, Character of One in Ecstatic Love. Rupa Goswami next describes the characteristics of a person who has actually developed his love for Krishna are as follows. He is always his time in the devotion. He does not. He wants service always 24 hours a day without deviation. He is always perseverant. He is always detached from all material attraction or any material respect in turn for his activity. Always certain that Krishna will bestow upon him. He is always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. He is very much attached to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. He is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. He is very to live in the place where the Lord's pastimes are performed. Example, Mathura, Vrindavana, or Dwarka. Utilization of time. An unalloyed devotee who has developed ecstatic love for Krishna is always engaging his words in reciting prayers to the Lord. Within the mind, he is always thinking of Krishna, and with his body, he either offers obeisances before the deity or engages in some other service. During these ecstatic activities, he sometimes shed tears. In this way, his whole life is engaged in the service of the Lord without a moment wasted on any other engagement. Perseverance. When a person is undisturbed, even in the presence of various causes of disturbance, he is called reserved and perseverant. An example of this perseverance and reservation is found in the behavior of King Parikshit as described in the first canto, 19th chapter, verse 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam. The king says that the king says there to all the sages present before him at the time of his death, "My dear Brahmanas, you should always accept me as your surrendered servant. I have come to the bank of the Ganges just to devote my heart and soul unto the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. So please bless me that Mother Ganges may also be pleased with me. Let the curse of the Brahmana's son fall upon me. I do not mind. I only request that at the last moment of my life, all of you will kindly chant the holy name of Vishnu so that I may realize his transcendental qualities." This example of Maharaja Parikshit's behavior, his remaining patient even at the last moment of his last point of his life, his undisturbed condition of mind is an example of reservation. This is one of the characteristics of developed ecstatic love for Krishna. Someone else would like to read?
I can read. Detachment. The senses are always desiring sense enjoyment, but when a devotee develops transcendental love for Krishna, his senses are no longer attracted by material desires. This state of mind is called detachment. There is a nice example of this detachment. in connection with the character of King Bharat. In the 5th canto, 14th chapter, verse 43 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Emperor Bharat was so attracted by the beauty of the lotus feet of Krishna that even in his youthful life he gave up all kinds of attachments to family, children, friends, kingdom, etc., as though they were untouchable stools. Emperor Bharat provides a typical example of detachment. He had everything enjoyable in the material world, but he left it. This means that detachment does not mean artificially keeping oneself aloof and apart from the allurements of attachment. Even in the presence of such allurements, if one can remain unattracted by material attached, in the beginning, of course, a neophyte devotee must try to keep himself apart from alluring attachments. But the real position of it is that even in the presence of all allurements, not at all attracted. This is the actual criterion of detached pridelessness. When a devotee, in spite of possessing all the qualities of pure realization, is not proud of his position, he is called prideless. In the Padma Purana, it is stated that King Bhagirath was the emperor above all other kings, yet he developed love for Krishna, that he became a mendicant and went out begging even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. He was so humble that he respectfully bowed down before them. There are many similar instances in the history of India. Even very recently, about 200 years ago or less, one big landlord known as Lal, the landowner, became a Vaishnava and lived in Vrindavan. He was also begging from door to door, even at the homes of his political enemies, insulted by persons sorry to whose home one has come. That is natural, but one has to tolerate such insults for the sake of Krishna. The devotee of Krishna can accept any position in the service of Krishna. Great hope. The strong conviction that one will certainly receive the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called in Sanskrit Ashabandha. Ashabandha means to continue to think, because I'm trying my best to follow the routine principles of devotional service, I'm sure that I will go back to Godhead, back to home. In this connection, one prayer by Rupa Goswami is sufficient to exemplify this hopefulness. He says, I have no love for Krishna, nor for the causes of developing love of Krishna, namely hearing and yoga, always thinking of Krishna and fixing his lotus feet in me. As far as philosophical knowledge or pious works are concerned, I need any opportunity for me to execute such activities. But above all, I am not even born of a nice family. Therefore, I must be Gopi Jana Vallabha, Krishna, maintainer and beloved of the gopis, and hope that some way or other I may be able to approach your lotus feet, and this hope is giving me pain, because I think myself quite incompetent to approach that transcendental. The purport is that under this heading of Ashabandha, one should continue to hope against hope, that some way or other he will be able to approach the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Eagerness for achieving the desired success. When one is sufficiently eager to achieve success in devotional service, that eagerness is called samutkanta. This means complete eagerness. Actually, this eagerness is the price for achieving. Everything has some value, and one has to pay the value before obtaining or possessing it. It is stated in the Vedic literature that to purchase the most valuable thing, Krishna consciousness, one has to develop intense eagerness for achieving success. This intense eagerness is very nicely expressed by Bilva Mangala Thakur in his book, Krishna Karnamrita. He says, I'm eagerly waiting to see that boy of Vrindavan, whose bodily beauty is captivating the whole universe, whose eyes are always bounded by black eyebrows and expanded like lotus petals, and who is always eagerly glancing over his devotees, and therefore moving slightly here and there. His eyes are always moist, his lips are coloured like copper, and through those lips there comes a sound vibration which drives one madder than a mad elephant. I want so much to see him at Vrindavan. attachment to chanting the holy names of the Lord. In the same Krishna Karnamrita, there is another statement about the chanting of Radharani. It is said by one of the associates of Radharani, O Lord Govinda, the girl who is the daughter of King Vrishabhanu is now shedding tears, and she is anxiously chanting your holy name, Krishna Krishna. Would someone else like to read now?
Sirumi? Are you sure? Okay. Eagerness to describe the Lord's transcendental qualities. Attachment for chanting the glories of the Lord is also expressed in the Krishna Karnamrita as follows. What shall I do for Krishna, who is pleasing beyond all pleasurable conceptions, and who is naughtier than all restless boys? The idea of Krishna's beautiful activities is attracting my heart, and I do not know what I can do. Attraction for living in a place where Krishna has his pastimes. In the book Padyavali by Rupa Goswami, there is the following statement about Vrindavan. In this place, the son of Maharaj Nanda used to live with his father, who was the king of all cowherd men. In this place, Lord Krishna broke the cart in which the Shakatasura demon was concealed. At this place, Damodar, who can cut the knot of our material existence, was tied up by his mother, Yashoda. The deity of Lord Krishna resides in the district of Mathura or Vrindavan and visits all the places where Krishna's pastimes were performed. Played his childhood activities with the cowherd boys and Mother Yashoda. The system of circumambulating is still current among devotees of Lord Krishna, and thus those coming to Mathura and Vrindavan always feel transcendental pleasure. Actually, if someone goes to Vrindavan, he will immediately feel separation from Krishna, who performed such nice activities when he was present there. Such attraction for remembering Krishna's activities is known as attachment for Krishna. There are impersonalist philosophers and mystics, however, who, by a show of devotional service, want ultimately to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord. They sometimes try to imitate a pure devotee's sentiment for visiting the holy places where Krishna had his pastimes, but they simply have a view for salvation, and so their activities cannot be considered attachment. It is said by Rupa Goswami that the attachment exhibited by pure devotees for Krishna cannot possibly be perfected in the hearts of fruitive workers, karmis, or mental speculators in pure Krishna consciousness is very rare and not possible to achieve even for many liberated persons. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, contamination is the stage at which devotional service can be achieved. For a person who simply wants to have the personal Brahma Jyotir, attachment to Krishna is not possible to acquire. This attachment is very Krishna and is bestowed only upon pure devotees. Even ordinary devotees cannot have such pure attachment for Krishna. Therefore, how is it possible for success to be achieved by persons whose hearts are contaminated with fruitive activities and who are entangled by various types of mental speculation? There are many so-called devotees who artificially think of Krishna's pastimes known as Ashtakaliya Leela. Sometimes artificially imitate these, pretending that Krishna is talking with him in the form of a boy, or else one may pretend that Radharani and Krishna both have come to him. Such characteristics are sometimes exhibited by the impersonalist class of men, and they may captivate some innocent persons who have no knowledge in the science of devotional service. However, as soon as an experienced devotee sees all of these caricatures, he can immediately evaluate such rascaldom. If such a pretender is sometimes seen possessing imitative attachment to Krishna, that will not be accepted as real attachment. It may be said, however, that such attachment gives the pretender hope that he may eventually rise onto the actual platform of pure devotion. This imitative attachment can be divided into two headings, namely shadow attachment and para, transcendental attachment. If someone, without undergoing the regulative principles of devotional service or bona fide spiritual master, shows such imitative attachment, this is called shadow attachment. Sometimes it is found that a person actually attached to material enjoyment or salvation has the good fortune to associate with pure devotees while they are engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. By the good grace of the Lord, one may also cooperate and join in the chanting. At that time, simply by the association of such pure devotees, from their hearts reflect on him, and by the influence of the pure devotees, he may show some likeness of attachment caused by inquisitiveness, but this is very flickering. And if by the manifestation of such shadow attachment, one feels the disappearance of all material pangs, then it is called para attachment. Such shadow attachment or para attachment can develop if one associates with a pure devotee, Vrindavan or Mathura, and if an ordinary man develops such attachment for Krishna, unfortunately performs devotional service activities in the association of pure devotees, he can also rise to the platform of pure devotional service. The conclusion is that transcendental attachment is such attachment is seen manifested even in some common man by the association of a pure devotee. It can bring one to the perfectional stage. But such attachment for Krishna cannot without his being sufficiently blessed by the association of pure devotees. As attachment can be invoked by the association of pure devotees, so attachment can also be extinguished by offenses committed at the lotus feet of pure devotees. To be more clear, by the association of pure devotees, attachment for Krishna can be aroused, but if one commits offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee, one's shadow attachment, para attachment, can be extinguished. The waning of the full moon, which gradually decreases and at last becomes dark. One therefore be very careful while associating with pure devotees to guard against committing an offense at their lotus feet. Transcendental attachment, either shadow or para, can be nullified by different degrees of offenses at the lotus feet of pure devotees. If the offense is very serious, then one's attachment becomes almost nil, and if the offense is not very serious, one's attachment can become second class or third. If someone becomes attached to the principles of salvation or to merging into the existence of the Brahma Jyotir, sees gradually diminish into shadow and para attachment, or else transform into the principles of Ahangropasana describes a living entity when he begins spiritual realization by identifying himself with the Supreme Lord. This state of self-realization is technically known as monism. The monist thinks himself one with the Supreme Lord. Thus, because he does not differentiate between himself and the Supreme Lord, it is his view that by worshipping himself, he is worshipping the Supreme Whole. Would someone else like to read?
Haribol, can you just bring it a little bit down because I can't see very clearly? Yeah, okay, a little bit more. Okay, okay. Yeah, in the middle, yeah. Okay, Stacy. Static love of Godhead can be potently involved simply by following the rules and regulation of devotional service as they are prescribed in scriptures, under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto, second chapter, verses 40 of Srimad Bhagavatam, this ecstatic love, born of the execution of regulative devotion service, is explained. The devotees, in the course of executing the regulative principles of devotional service, develop his natural Krishna consciousness, and being thus softened a heart, he chants and dances like a madman. While performing chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he sometimes cries, sometimes talk widely, sometimes sing, and sometimes, without caring for any outsiders, dance like a madman. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement about static love born of spontaneous affection. Chandrakanti, a celebrated fair-faced girl, rigidly observed. People down, please. I can't
I'm
see.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Rigidly observed celibacy in order to obtain Krishna as she always engaged herself meditating on the transcendental form of the Lord and always chanting praise the Lord. She did not desire to accept anyone as a husband. She decided that only Lord Krishna was her husband. The Lord when devotee is found to be always associated with the Lord in ecstatic love, it is to be understood that such a position has been awarded by the Lord himself out of his causeless extraordinary mercy. An example of such extraordinary mercy is given in the 11th canto, 12th chapter, verses 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein tells Uddhava, the gopis in Vrindavan did not study the Vedas to achieve me, nor had they ever been to holy places of pilgrimage, nor did they devotedly execute any regulative principle, nor did they undergo any kind of austerity. It is simply by my association that they have attained the highest perfection of devotional service. From the example of Chandrakanti as found in the Padma Purana and from the example of the gopis as found in Srimad Bhagavatam, it appears that a devotee who always think of Krishna and who always chant his glories in ecstatic love, regardless of these conditions, will attain the highest perfection of unalloyed devotional love due to Krishna's extraordinary mercy. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. If a person worship, adore, and love Hari, the Supreme Lord, he should be understood to have finished all kinds of austerities, finances, and similar processes for self-realization. On the other hand, if after undergoing all types of austerities, penances, and mystic yoga practice, one does not develop such love for Hari, then all his performances ought to be considered a useless waste of time. If someone always sees Krishna inside and out, then it is to be understood that he has surpassed all austerities and penances for self-realization. And if after executing all kinds of penances and austerity, one cannot always see Krishna inside and out, he has not executed his performance uselessly. Spontaneous attraction for Krishna, which is said to be due to extraordinary mercy of the Lord, can be placed under two headings. One is profound veneration for the greatness of one's being automatically attracted to Krishna without any extraneous consideration. In the Narad Pankaratra, it is said that if on account of of profound veneration for the greatest of the Supreme Lord. One attain a great affection. One is certainly assured of attaining four kinds of Vaishnava liberation, namely achieving the same bodily features as the Lord, achieving the same opulence as the Lord, dwelling on the planet where the Lord is residing, and attaining it. The Vaishnava liberation is completely different from the Mayavada liberation, which is simply a matter of being merged into the effulgence of the Lord. In the Narad Pankar Ratra pure unalloyed devotion, service is explained as being without any motive for personal benefit. If a devotee is continuously in love and his mind is always fixed upon him, that devotional attitude will prove to be only means of attracting the attention. In other words, a Vaishnava is instantly thinking of the form of Lord Krishna is to be known as a pure Vaishnava. Maybe somebody else can read.
Have we come back around again?
Yes.
Okay. Generally, a devotee who has achieved the causeless mercy of the Lord on account of following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service becomes attracted by the supreme greatness of the Lord, by the transcendental beauty of the Lord, and by the spontaneous execution of devotional service. To be more clear, by executing the regulative principles of devotional service, one can fully appreciate the transcendental beauty of the Lord. In any case, such exalted positions are possible only by the extraordinary mercy upon the Lord of the Lord association with pure devotees. Although many different processes for developing love of Godhead have been explained so far, Srila Rupa Goswami now gives us a general description of how one can best achieve such a high position. The beginning of ecstatic love of Godhead is basically faith. Societies and associations of pure devotees, and if someone with just a little faith begins to associate with such societies, his advancement to pure devotional service is rapid. The influence of a pure devotee is such that if someone comes to associate with him with a little faith, one gets the chance of hearing about the Lord from authoritative scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, by the mercy of the Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, one gradually develops his faith in the description of such authoritative scriptures. This is the first stage of association with pure devotees. In the second, advanced and mature, he automatically offers to follow the principles of devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee and accepts him as a spiritual master. In the next stage, under the guidance of the spiritual master, the devotee executes regulative devotional service, and as a result of such activities, he becomes freed from all unwanted occupations. When he is freed from unwanted occupations, his faith becomes a transcendental taste for devotional service, then attachment, then ecstasies, and in the last stage, there is pure love of Godhead. These are the different stages of development of pure love. Only the most fortunate persons can achieve such success in life. Those who are simply academic students of the Vedic scriptures cannot appreciate how such a development takes place. In the Narada Pancharatra, Lord Shiva therefore tells Parvati, "My dear Supreme Goddess, you may know from me that any person who's developed the ecstasy of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love, cannot even present body and mind. The affection and the dealings of love, there are different branches of the original tree of love, precede many varieties of affectionate manifestations that will not be discussed here. These different manifestations have been described by Sanatana Goswami in his Bhagavatamrita. Although the subject of such affections and dealings of love is very confidential, Sanatana Goswami has described them very explicitly. Sri Rupa Goswami thus concludes the first division of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, offering up his treatise for the transcendental, who has established the transcendental beauty and of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. It appears from this statement that the great Srila Jiva Goswami was not yet active when the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was written. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta summary study of the first division of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu up to the descriptions of ecstatic love of Godhead. which are to follow next.
Yeah. Oh,
Start of the ecstatic love, what we started today, is just an unbelievable description. Talking about the hearts of the pure devotees, how they're like the sun.
mm,
You know, it's saying that at that time one's heart becomes illuminated like the sun. The sun is far above the planetary systems, and there is no possibility of its being covered by any kind of cloud. Similarly, when a devotee is purified like the sun, from his pure heart there is a diffusion of ecstatic love, which is more glorious than the sunshine. Only
wow.
at that, yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Only at that time is the attachment to Krishna perfect. Spontaneously, the devotee becomes eager to serve the Lord in his ecstatic love. At this stage, the devotee is on the platform of Uttama Adhikari. Such a devotion from material and is interested in Radha and Krishna. You really felt that was a powerful expression, talking about the sun and you know, that's how it is diffused from his heart. And that reminds me of some of the descriptions that some of the early devotees talked about in Srila Prabhupada, you know, when they were in his presence, that there was this incredibleness to be with Srila Prabhupada, because this was just so evidently natural there in him. And that's how they all developed, that's how they developed so much faith, because they were, as it says later, that you can get this faith is enhanced by a pure devotees. But, you know, the more we hear about him from the other devotees, and the more we hear the tapes of all the devotees speaking and everything, or you know, it really strengthens our faith and our ability to see that purity coming from the hearts of these great devotees.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I was just thinking when you're saying that, Manipur, that I've sometimes wondered in the past, devotees that came to be with Prabhupada, you know, were they just already